Okay, so the East Coast is rattling. We had a strange magnitude 2.6 quake in Cleveland, Ohio, after the New York quake of 1.5 yesterday, the Rhode Island quake, the Boston quake, even quakes, of course, in near Montreal in Ontario. So this was on the shore of Lake Erie. It was felt by, I just missed it. Let's see, 431 people. It was a 5-kilometer depth, so it was shallow. And you're going to be informed now that this area of the Great Lakes was at one point, somehow about 2 billion years ago, 2 billion years ago, okay, we're talking about a very large, of course, time span, but it had to do with the Wyoming province and separation. It's a hypothesis that they say that the Great Lakes were closer to Wyoming, and somehow there's been rifting. This is the mid-Atlantic rift that we were talking about just yesterday. And we had a friend from that area who was able to give us some information on the various booms, cracks, lights from the ground towards the sky, and quakes, and various things you can see. Now, this is the area of Cleveland that you can see right on the shore of Lake Erie. The red spots are where you had the various earthquakes that they have reported lately. So that's something I just found just now looking through this for this information. So you see that they have had quite a few, even in the lake, on the border between the US and Canada, as you can see there. So this is around the Cleveland area right there where most of those spots are. This is a map that I found yesterday having to do with volcanic activity, volcanic areas, West Coast, East Coast, and around Wyoming, as you can see there, Arizona, Texas. And I was surprised to see even somewhere down there near Florida. I guess I shouldn't be surprised because that's near the Caribbean where we have a lot of volcanoes. And as we know, Maine has 5 volcanoes. You can see a lot of red in that area as well on the East Coast. Okay, this is the area of the cracked, this is Green Bay Crime Reports Police Fire and Rescue, December 4th. Bayshore Park, this is what I'll show you later. Sorry about that. Look at that, look at that, look at that. That's amazing. The whole thing is gone. The whole thing is destroyed. You see that this is it. This is the region here we're talking about concerning the loud booms and things like weird lights, flashing of lights, strange lights coming from the ground. And we've even seen the cracked up areas of the boat launch. Correction that it was Michigan and not Superior. We've already said many times before, USGS just basically stops here at the US-Canada border. But we do have the Canadian Geological Survey. It's not as good, but this is it. We've had a big one here today. Okay, Northwest Territories right there. Yukon Territories. Okay, Dawson. And this one here. This is it. Actually, I don't know where that is. Is that on the US border? That's on Ontario. That's Ontario. Okay. 18 kilometers depth, 2 magnitude on December 1st. So that's, as you can see, right on Lake Superior. Okay, right there. This is the area that our friend Kevin is telling us about, right there. And what do we have there? Well, that's it right there. That's the area right there. Amazing. Mid-continental rift, at the Kewinan Rift. Lake Superior occupies the apex of the rift. We're looking at basically in 2 days, something weird is going on with the Great Lakes. This is the Canadian earthquakes now. Okay, this is what we were talking about before, just the 2 magnitude on December 1st, 18 kilometers depth, so it's not that shallow, but still. And this is on the Ontario side. Ontario, just across the border, at the border. But this is the new one today. This is the 6th. Okay, a little bit again on the 6th. That was the first. This is on the 6th. 2 kilometers depth, 1.7 magnitude. So this was on the 1st, as we can see. And then we had the one here on Lake Erie. You can see what's going on there. This is, of course, the New Madrid seismic zone rift zone. This is part of the rift zone. You can see all these earthquakes lately that we've had there. They're pretty big. I mean, 3.5 for Canada. That's not... Because we said you could, this La Baie, Quebec. I used to live in Montreal. I'm also Canadian, yes. And there, again, Saint-Michel-de-Saint, and 3.2. And here, we know that here, off the main area, we have the seamount, the East Coast seamount of 30 volcanoes that somehow, because of this shield around Hudson Bay, they stopped there. Something is going on there. That's where we have earthquakes there. That pressure is trying to go this way, and it's hitting the shield, and it's stopping there. We do have faults here as well on the East Coast, okay, and also subsidence. We do have faults around here, and then subsidence around here, as we said in yesterday's video. But this is, okay, these are the, as you can see, the USGS doesn't show the Canadian earthquakes, unfortunately. We have to go to the Canadian map to see them. Look at this. It does map some, some Cascadia. Okay, this is on November 15th. So Cascadia, as we know, is that. Look at this on Vancouver. Vancouver, really, really something. Okay, so let's go to this is our quakes. This is the one that we're talking about that was felt by 431 people, some odd. And this is it, 2.6. Okay, and today, this is yesterday's quake, 1.5, upstate New York. And this is, of course, okay, that's Canada, okay, but 2.4. And this is the Boston, Plymouth, Massachusetts, 2.1. And this is the Rhode Island one. Where is Rhode Island? Little Rhode Island is basically, when they were telling us information about that, they included that with Long Island, because if you go in, you'll see that it's basically, Rhode Island is like a sunken Long Island. Look, if you take that, it goes all the way down that way. This is basically sunken Long. I mean, if the sea level was lower, this whole thing would be the same landmass. Maybe even Long Island Sound wouldn't be there, but maybe this whole area would have been landmass. But it's flooded over. A lot of these areas are very low, as we know. The Hamptons and over here around Brooklyn. Of course, Long Island Sound around here, they're very low. And this is Rhode Island, where we had that very strange quake. And we found, that's when we talked about, we saw what was there. We found the 30, here we are, there they are, the 30 volcanoes in that seamount. Right there, there's Bermuda as well, okay? And this is, they have seamounts around here, and then up Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, they have subsidence there. Who knows, maybe they have more volcanoes there as well, because all this is volcanic, okay? All this is volcanic, all this is volcanic, all this is volcanic, and they even have the Kickhamjeni, I think this is Kickhamjeni down there, the second to last, the undersea water volcano, which is, underwater volcano, which is Very dangerous, they say, for eruption. So, well, something, look at that. I mean, all these are volcanic, it's a volcanic arc. And we've had months of earthquakes. I don't know. We saw them uptick, of course, after Ridgecrest. And something's going on with Salton Buttes. Look at that today. And the blue is the past day and the red is the past hour. But let's go on to this. Okay, there's a rift. The Mid-Atlantic Rift is around here. Okay, and it's also it's not really that separate from the New Madrid seismic zone. Okay, which is the Real Rift Zone, which is, it should be called, from what geologists have said, the New Madrid's Rift Valley. The New Madrid Rift Valley. And this is the Mid-Atlantic Rift, because it's splitting there. And they said that this, 2 billion years ago, was basically this, you know, somehow ripping from there. Ripping from each other. The Great Lake seismic activity, Wyoming province, this is on Wikipedia, Wyoming province separation hypothesis. The hotspot Gabbro magnetism occurred about 2.5 billion years ago. The eastern edge of Wyoming craton, south of current day Sudbury. Continental rifting is exhibited by emplacement of mafic igneous rocks on each side of the rift margins, and by 2.1 billion years ago, the Superior and Wyoming provinces had completely separated, and then Wyoming craton drifted west until it docked and stopped there, and then 1.8 billion years ago, Superior province northwest of its original position. So I didn't know that. Well, we know now. Now, before rifting, final assembly of the supercontinent Kinnerland was finished about 2.6 billion years ago. Southern Superior province with Minnesota River Valley subprovince attached. The current day southeastern border of Wyoming province abutted each other from the Sudbury area westerly, about 390 miles to the Wisconsin-Michigan state line on Lake Superior. The hotspot was 80 miles south of the East Bull Lake Suite, approximately under present-day Sudbury. The Blue Draw Meta-Gabbros in the Black Hills of South Dakota were 390 miles west of Sudbury. Okay, so you can see then during the rifting about 2.17 billion years ago, intrusive events affected the Superior Wyoming cratons, indicating that the plume had moved 210 miles west, centered in the opening between Superior province and the rifting Wyoming province. The Wyoming province was rotating away, with the Blue Draw Meta-Gabbro being the pivot point. Harrian's reconstruction of the pivot is shown here. There's Superior, there's Superior and there's Wyoming. Okay. At this time, the two provinces are in contact at only one point north of the Blue Draw Meta-Gabbro. That point of contact was 540 miles from Sudbury and 60 miles southwest of Duluth, Minnesota. And the Blue Draw Meta-Gabbro is now 580 miles west of Sudbury, that remains about 90 miles south of Superior Wyoming Province Junction. And after complete separation, they have here Matachewan dike swarms. Wow. Less north of Lake Superior, between Lake Superior and Hudson Bay. That's over Ontario, as you can see here. This is about 500-mile distance. Now, after completion, about 2 billion years ago, magmatic events affecting the Superior Wyoming craton show hotspot activity having moved 310 miles west, the two provinces having rifted so that they are separated by 60 miles. That narrow distance between the two cratons, 710 miles from Sudbury and east central South Dakota. Blue Draw Meta-Gabbro now 590 miles west of Sudbury, south of the Superior province southern border. So somehow you see they were connecting and they started rifting. Earthquakes. here we are. We're around here, down here somewhere. Red dots show larger magnitude earthquakes in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Upper Peninsula, Southern Ontario. The earthquakes near Minnesota Western Bulge is the Morris earthquake. Okay. Earthquakes has been the most seismically active in the region of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan's Upper Peninsula, Southern Ontario. Several earthquakes have been documented in Minnesota in the last 120 years. Epicenters show clear relationship to tectonic features of the state. 4 epicenters lie along the Great Lakes Tectonic Zone, GLTZ. GLTZ is the Great Lakes Tectonic Zone. Depths are estimated to be about 5 to 20 kilometers. So that's where we have that. What depth was this? 5 kilometers. And it says here 5 to 20 kilometers. So that's at the tectonic depth. The best documented event occurred July 9th, 1975 near Morris, Minnesota, magnitude 4.6 and a felt area of 32,000 square miles covering parts of 4 states. It was felt in 4 states. Wisconsin has had no earthquakes along the Great Lake tectonic zone. Michigan's Upper Peninsula has had 4 quakes in the vicinity. Okay. So, look, we had, remember we even had outside of Pittsburgh a couple of weeks back, like a 1.9 that was felt. And we said, what is that? And that's what, and then we had the day before we had one up here, the 2 magnitude, and then we had, where is it again? Okay, and then we had this one. How much was that one? What was that? That was a 1.7 above tectonic plate, and this one was very deep, so that was tectonic. That was tectonic, on the tectonic, from what they tell us, as we said before. Depths estimated, okay, tectonic zone, depths estimated 5 to 20 kilometers, 3 to 12 miles, okay? So, it's the Great Lakes area. Of course, this is also the New Madrid seismic zone. It's the Rift Valley, and this is the Mid-Atlantic Rift area. So we've got this to worry about now, too. I'm not fear-mongering. I'm just telling you we had an earthquake there. And it was felt by, as we said, where are we? Where did it go to? No, that's Tennessee. What am I? Oh, sorry, that's an old one. Here we are. 431 people. 434 people. Okay. So, what's going on there? Let's see if we can get our shake. Did we get shake maps? No. They're not going to show the faults. I'm sure they're not going to show any faults. Because, these, I read before I started this, that they don't know where the faults are. Because they're so hidden under sediment. They can only realize where they are after the quake happens, because it's not that well studied as it is on the West Coast. Okay, this is Pittsburgh right there. And this is, as we said, where is it? Rhode Island, Boston, Montreal, Ontario, Lake Superior, right here. So strange things happening there. So let's go back and read what are they going to tell us here. Earthquakes in Northeast Ohio seismic zone has had moderately frequent earthquakes at least since the first one was reported in 1823. The largest earthquake, magnitude 4.8, caused damage in 1986 in northeasternmost Ohio, and the most recent damaging shock, magnitude 4.5, occurred in 1998 at the seismic zone's eastern edge in northwest Pennsylvania. Earthquakes too small to cause damage are felt 2 or 3 times per decade. Earthquakes in the central and eastern U.S., although less frequent than in western U.S., are typically felt over a much broader region. East of the Rockies, an earthquake can be felt over an area as much as 10 times larger than a similar magnitude earthquake on the west coast. Magnitude 4 eastern U.S. earthquake typically can be felt as many places as far as 60 miles from where it occurred, and it frequently causes damage near its source. Magnitude 5.5 eastern U.S. earthquakes usually can be felt as far as 300 miles from where it occurred, sometimes causing damage as far as 25 miles away. The faults. Earthquakes everywhere occur on faults within bedrock, usually miles deep. Most of the seismic zone's bedrock was formed as several generations of mountains rose and were eroded down again over the last billion or more years. At well-studied plate boundaries, like the San Andreas Fault system in California, often scientists can determine the name of the specific fault that's responsible for the earthquake. In contrast, east of the Rockies, this is rarely the case. The Northeast Ohio seismic zone is far from the nearest plate boundaries, which are in the center of the Atlantic Ocean and Caribbean. The seismic zone is laced with known faults, but numerous smaller or deeply buried faults remain undetected. Even the known faults are poorly located at earthquake depths. Accordingly, few, if any, earthquakes in the seismic zone can be linked to named faults. It's difficult to determine if a known fault is still active and could slip and cause an earthquake. As in most other areas of the Rockies, the best guide to earthquake hazards in the Northeast Ohio seismic zone is the earthquake themselves. Okay, this is where it occurred. This is on volcano and earthquakes, recent earthquakes, volcano discovery. This is the exact area of it right here. Above, Cleveland, accurate above it, right here on the shore. And this is exactly where our Real Rift zone licks the lakes. We've said this many times. It licks the lakes and goes up into the, here. Okay, it goes here, these quakes here. Okay, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Pittsburgh is down here, but this is the area of New Madrid seismic zone, right there. We have a crack here. Remember that big crack we talked about going from Vancouver Island through Seattle, through Yellowstone. You can see part of the crack right here, and it goes and crosses here in New Madrid, Missouri, and that's the other crack, the smaller crack. That big crack is 2,200 miles. This other crack goes from the Mississippi, goes up, and Real Rift zone licks Lake Erie, where we just had our today's quake, and licks Lake Ontario, and runs up to the crack, goes and cracks up. That's where we have the St. Lawrence River, passing Montreal, Ottawa, Montreal, and that's where we had the other quakes as well. There they are, okay, right there. That's Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, okay, and that's where we've had our quake. So, is that due to magma here? I don't know. I have not seen, I have to go into the geodesy to see the activity there. Is that inflating? Well, that'll be another video, okay? So, because you may wanna, we have to see if that's inflating. We have to see what's happening here. Are these things inflating? We have no idea what's going on there. Okay, so that's the Ohio location, and Ohio seismicity we said before. This is the area, okay, around Cleveland. So you can see it does have a lot of quakes because it's New Madrid seismic, so it's the Rift Valley. All right, so I'll leave links below for you for that. Okay, this is a wonderful map. Now that we talked about the splitting of the superior tectonic part of the tectonic from Wyoming, you can see that they're the same color. They're basically that the purple. And in between, you have the Mid-Atlantic Rift, that navy blue color. Okay, so that's basically, well, not the navy blue. Okay, that, but as well as the where it says 1.1. Okay, that's the Keweenan Rift, where it says 1.1, that's the Keweenan Rift over the Great Lakes that we talked about yesterday. So it's not only the Superior and Wyoming, the dark purple, with the navy and the yellow, in between the passive margin. The blue is a Churchill collision, and it's that the first one that says Keweenan Rift, that's the Mid-Atlantic Rift right there. So this is the area that somehow, yeah, maybe it's rifting, Look, the Earth is growing. The Earth is growing, and it's growing at the tremendous rate of the rate of the growth of a human fingernail. As fast as a human fingernail is growing, that's how much the Earth is growing every single day. Our nail, how many inches does it grow every year? That's how much, in general, the Earth is growing every year. Some parts are growing, splitting faster than others. So we're growing. Now this is the loud noises in the area of Michigan, where we saw the dock splitting up and being destroyed. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. And cracked up. And this is more of the Great Lakes and faults, as you can see here. You see the bottom line is basically the part of the New Madrid seismic zone, and the other part up there is the Keweenan Rift, the Keweenan Fault. It's a fault area going through right here. Okay. This is Lake Superior. So they do know faults. It's just that, I don't know, maybe it just takes too much to put into their description of what's there. And this is one of the recent cracks that they had in the area. As you can see, it looks like one of the cracks that they had in Ridgecrest. It's pretty big, pretty deep, and pretty long. And of course, it would make sounds. The earth cracking up would make sounds. And many a times they do see lights, some kind of electromagnetic charges coming up, boom sounds, of course, and of course, earthquakes and rattling of the houses, and there you have that blue line, I can't remember what that is, going across the, from Mexico up to the Great Lakes. That's another type of a fault system. Okay, so I'll leave links below for you for this. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.